First, there were human remains found dumped in a desolate area just over the Charlotte County line. For more than 20 years, detectives were never able to identify who those remains belonged to. But thanks to incredible advances in technology, paired with a team of relentless detectives who never give up, we now have the name of the man whose bones were found 22 years ago. But what we don't know is why or who was responsible. I'm Trish Routte with Southwest Florida Crime Stoppers. Back in 2002, deputies responded to this area just off Zemel Road after passersby spotted something suspicious.
What appeared to be human remains in a wooded area about a half mile west of Tamiami Trail, Highway 41, in numerous locations on the roadway, across the street, and in a general location across from the dump entrance for the Charlotte County dump. There was a finding by our medical examiner at the time, Dr. Imami, that this was the victim of a homicide, identity unknown.
So at that point, you've got an unidentified body, confirmed that it was a homicide. You don't know who it is, you don't know who is responsible. The glory of what you all do as a unit, as a cold case unit, is that you never give up. You've got a case that at that point seems virtually impossible to solve because you don't even know who your victim was. But you guys persisted and persisted, and you checked all different ways, and then technology comes in.
Right, so our cold case unit as it exists today was founded in February of 2009. And this was one of the cases that was part of our inventory, unidentified human remains, victim of a homicide found on Zemel Road. When we take these cases, we look into them, we see what we have in evidence, what technology was used at the time, and we try to see if there's any new technology that we can use to perhaps enhance the case and help it out.
And as it turns out, technology was a game changer. When detectives were able to secure a grant in 2021 that tapped into DNA and genealogy databases, they were finally able to move forward with identifying their victim.
One of the things we were able to do in 2021 was the Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office here in Florida had developed a forensic imaging unit using computers and digital enhancement. We're able to recreate a face for us, to put a face on our skull, on our body.
Now we could see who the victim was, but there was one more step.
In the course of that process, they obtained a much better DNA sample that could be submitted to the national database, CODIS. And once that was submitted, we pretty quickly got the identity of our skeletal remains.
So now you have a name, but the case is still unsolved. So now you're at least able to backtrack a little bit about, okay, here's who he is. Now, he was from the East Coast.
Correct.
Tell us a little bit about the victim.
So the victim is Alejandro Narciso Lago. He's a Cuban-born national in this country illegally, I understand. He had family in New Jersey and also in the Miami area. He was involved in a lot of criminal activity involving drugs and tractor trailers. We're still sorting some of that out. He got himself arrested several times in the city of Miami and in Miami-Dade County over the years. One of the incidents, he got into an argument in a bar on 8th Street in Miami and came back with a gun and shot the person he was fighting with. That person luckily survived. However, he was charged with attempted homicide, and he did some prison time for that. Somewhere along the line, immigration got involved and put a hold on him, and he was held by immigration for a little over 3.5 years. Unfortunately, immigration had to release him because the United States doesn't have a diplomatic relationship with Cuba and couldn't deport him. He was released. We know that he got out of prison, Florida Department of Corrections, in August of 2001. And we discovered that his mother had reported him missing in December of 2001, last being seen on November 19th, 2001.
Any idea what brought him over to Charlotte County?
That's the million-dollar question. We're trying to figure out how this male, who spent most of his adult life in and out of the Miami area on the east coast of Florida, with no known connections to the west coast of Florida or southwest Florida, end up dead in southern Charlotte County. And that's what we're working on, and that's what we're interested in trying to learn.
With the name of the victim and the place where his remains were found, the big question still lingered. Who killed Alejandro Lago and why? So you're trying to find out anything what brought him here, and then what happened that led up to his death. He had a violent nature about him, so is there the possibility that maybe he just crossed hairs with somebody and one thing got a little too far?
He was not killed at that scene. We believe that his body was dumped there. This is a place that in the past the general area has been used for overdose deaths to bodies to be dumped coming out of the city of Fort Myers or Lee County. It was a remote area, kind of the first place you could come up 41, Tamiami Trail, and get off of the road and dump a body. So, but we have no ties for Mr. Lago with the Lee County area, the Collier County area. He pretty much did most of his stuff in Miami. He did have a family. He had an ex-wife and 2 teenage sons that were estranged. He also had some brothers and sisters in Miami, and they are also estranged. So none of them, we've been in contact with them, but none of them really have an idea of what was going on in his life when he was released from prison up until the time he disappeared. So it's very strange to us. We don't believe he was killed in Miami area. There was the drive from Miami to Punta Gorda, across Alligator Alley. There's so many places that you could dump a body that it makes no sense. We do have a couple of tips that came in early on in the investigation in 2002. There was a report of a local group that had been bragging about beating up a Hispanic male and dumping him in the woods. That's still a viable a lead that we are working on. If anyone in the area has information regarding that, we would love to hear from them. There was also a couple of teenage males that got arrested in Georgia who, in the Atlanta region, who had bragged to someone that they had killed a man in Florida. And so we're not totally eliminating that. We're working with the Atlanta authorities right now. But we really don't know if either of those leads are accurate or related. And we're very curious to know why he was dumped here in this particular location.
This is where the public comes in. We need to hear from anyone from our area who knew Alejandro Lago, worked with him, or had any kind of association with him. Anything at all that can help develop a timeline, a motive, and a suspect. What would your message be to anybody that had a relationship with him, that knew him, that hung out with him, have any kind of contact with him in that time frame leading up to his death?
So when to investigate a crime such as this, we need to know as many details about the victim, what their life was like, what their behaviors were. We do not have much of that at all. We only know of what we have from his arrest record and his incarceration record. We have very minimal information from his family. As I said, they were estranged. So we need to talk to people and hear what they know about Alejandro Lago. What was he doing? What did he do for work? What was his behavior like? What was their interaction with him? Who did he associate himself with? All kinds of those things that we're operating in an unknown right now. And those are the things that we need to know to try to determine where he was killed and who's responsible.
And of course, if somebody happened to have witnessed a violent altercation with him, and for whatever reason they've just remained quiet for all these years, as you know, we've seen in many cases. But 20 plus years is a long time. People change, their relationships with people change, and maybe this is something that people have been, someone out there has been sitting on for all this time. Now's the time to come forward. You have an unsolved case that if somebody's got that information, that could change this to a solved case.
Absolutely, and that's our goal. Our goal is to resolve this case, to provide answers for the family. Even though they were estranged, he does have 2 sons. They want to know the answers to what happened to their dad. And so it's very important. And, we always say during these things that there's a lot of people that have information about these types of cases that are reluctant to come forward because they think maybe their information is dumb or not accurate, and they don't want to waste anyone's time. And what we say to that is, please send us that information. Let us make the determination, because you never know when one of those, might not be a good tip or good information, so I'm not going to share it, could turn a case. And that's very important to us. What we don't know is, why is he here? Why was he dumped here? And what was he doing that led up to his death? And by getting those answers and hopefully getting some assistance from friends, associates, witnesses who may have seen something or heard something back in 2001. We know that he was last seen November 17th of 2001, and within a month or so, his body was found in Charlotte County on Zemel Road. So somewhere in that 2-month time period, November through January, someone knows what happened to him, and we're just trying to get them to tell us.
If you have any information on the murder of Alejandro Lago, Crime Stoppers is here 24/7 to take your tip at 1-800-780-TIPS, online at www.southwestfloridacrimestoppers.com, or on the P3 Tips app. You will always remain anonymous, and if your tip leads to an arrest, we'll pay a cash reward of up to $3,000.